Welcome to Lesson 12 in mySci's Unit 8, Putting on a Show with Light and Sound. In this lesson, students will answer the question, how can you change a shadow? Students figure out that changing the distance of the light source from the object changes the size of the shadow created. In the Engage portion of this lesson, you'll ask students, how do you think we can make shadows larger or smaller? Have them get student journal page, How the Shadow Got Bigger. Have students record their hypothesis on the student journal page and briefly discuss answers. Talk to students about why they might want to make their shadows different sizes. Say to the class, as you develop your final shadow puppet play, you might want to change the size of your shadow. Let me show you an example. You'll then show students an example of a shadow puppet play and have them pay attention to the shadows in the video. Have them think about how the shadows got bigger or smaller in the video. After students have finished watching the shadows change sizes in the video, give them time to change their hypothesis if they need to. In the Explore portion of this lesson, students will need their stick puppets from the previous lesson. Give them their flashlights and allow them time to explore how they can make shadows bigger or smaller by using their stick puppets. In the Explain portion of this lesson, you'll bring students' whole group and have a discussion about their ideas on how they can make the shadows larger or smaller. Have one shadow puppet and one flashlight to test out their ideas. Discuss how they need to move the light, puppet, and surface to make the shadow bigger and how they would need to move them to make the shadow smaller. In the Elaborate portion of this lesson, you'll ask the class, how can you use the size difference in the shadows to make a difference in a story? Then allow students to work with partners to create a simple story with their puppets growing larger or smaller. In the Evaluate portion of this lesson, you'll start off by asking the class, what is the relationship between the puppet, the light source, and its shadow? Have students describe what happened when they were using their puppets with the flashlights. They should then draw the layout of their puppet, light source, and surface, and how they made it bigger or smaller in their student journals. For their drawing, they should use the scientific drawing rubric to make sure that they are labeling their drawing correctly. Drawing should show how moving the puppet closer to the light source makes the shadow bigger, or moving the puppet farther away from the light source makes the shadow smaller. Their drawings could also show that by moving the surface farther away from the puppet will make the shadow smaller, and moving the surface closer to the puppet will make the shadow bigger. By the end of this lesson, students should be able to answer the question, how can you change a shadow? They've explained how to make a shadow larger or smaller by moving the object and/or the light source. They will apply the idea of changing the size of the shadow when they're designing their shadow puppet show.